Ayubowan everyone. A very warm welcome to all of you from Study Hub Sri Lanka.
Hello, Focus Learners, and welcome back to Study Hub Sri Lanka. Before we dive into today's awesome explainer, do me a quick favor. Hit that subscribe button and click the little bell icon so you get instant notifications for all our upcoming study tips and tutorials. Oh, and stick around, because after the lesson, you're absolutely going to want to test your knowledge. We've dropped some past paper-style quizzes right down in the description below to help you prep. All right, let's get into it.
Okay, so here is our Masterclass roadmap for today. First, we'll do an intro to simple harmonic motion. Number 2, we'll look at the math and energy in SHM. Then, number 3, we'll tackle springs and fluid oscillations. And finally, number 4, we'll wrap up with damping and resonance.
Right, let's jump straight into Section 1, Intro to Simple Harmonic Motion. So, have you ever just sat back and relaxed on a swing? Think about that for a second. What truly makes that back-and-forth swaying motion different from, say, a planet moving in a giant circle? Well, to answer that, we really need to understand the vocabulary of motion. Let's look at the two examples we have here. On the left, we've got periodic motion. This is basically any motion that repeats itself at equal, exact intervals of time, like planets orbiting the sun. It just goes round and round on a schedule. But on the right, we have oscillatory motion. Now this one requires a to and fro or back and forth movement around a middle, resting equilibrium point, exactly like a baby's cradle or that swing we talked about. So remember this golden rule. All oscillatory motion is periodic, but not all periodic motion is oscillatory. Now within that umbrella of oscillatory motion, we have a very special, almost perfect type called Simple Harmonic Motion, or SHM. For movement to actually be classified as SHM, it has to rest on three main pillars. First, it must be periodic. Second, the acceleration must be directly proportional to the displacement. And third, that acceleration must always be directed inward, right back towards the mean position. This actually gives us our master equation for the entire chapter, A equals minus omega squared x. Guys, that negative sign is absolutely crucial. It's there to tell us that acceleration is always pulling in the opposite direction to the displacement.
To really see this in action and prove it, let's look at a classic physics system, the simple pendulum. It's really just a heavy little bob hung by a light string that won't stretch. When we pull that bob aside to a starting position and let it go, it swings. So let's zoom in and look closely at how the forces resolve on that little bob to create such a perfect, predictable rhythm. Okay, let's break down this mathematical derivation into small, manageable steps so it's super clear. Step 1. The weight, mg, acts straight downwards. We resolve this, and we find that the tangential component acting as the restoring force, pulling it back towards the center, is minus mg sine theta. Step 2. Bring in good old Newton's second law, F equals ma. So minus mg sine theta equals ma. Now, step 3 is our secret key here. It's the small angle approximation. As long as our angle theta doesn't get bigger than about 10 degrees, sine theta is pretty much just equal to theta in radians. And since theta equals x over L, we substitute that right in, and the masses on both sides beautifully cancel out. We are left with A equals minus g over L times x. Because g and L are fixed constants, our acceleration is directly proportional to negative displacement. We've officially proved it's SHM. Finally, in step 4, we derive the period t, which comes out to 2 pi times the square root of L over g.
All right, here is a quick study guide for Section 1. Jot these down if you can. Remember, all oscillatory motion is periodic. The defining master equation for SHM is A equals minus omega squared x. And, super importantly, the period of a simple pendulum depends only on its length and gravity. Its mass doesn't matter at all. Moving right along to Section 2, Math and Energy in SHM. Now that we really have the forces figured out, let's shift our focus to tracking the energy and visualizing this motion geometrically. Honestly, this is one of the most elegant concepts in all of physics. We can perfectly describe simple harmonic motion as simply the one-dimensional shadow, or projection, of an object moving in a perfect, uniform circle. If you look at the geometry here, as a point moves around the outer edge of the circle, its shadow just moves back and forth along the diameter line. That shadow is performing exact simple harmonic motion. This is a huge trick for us because it allows us to use circular math like angular velocity, omega, to solve linear straight-line oscillation problems. And as that object oscillates back and forth, there is this really beautiful story of energy exchange happening. Think of this like an energy dashboard. As the body rushes through the center equilibrium point, its restoring force drops to zero, but its speed is at an absolute maximum. Right there, kinetic energy is at its peak, but because it's moving so fast, it overshoots the center. As it pushes out to the very edges, the amplitude, it slows down and literally stops for a tiny fraction of a second. At that exact edge, kinetic energy is zero, and potential energy takes over completely. But here's the best part. According to the conservation of energy, the total energy remains perfectly constant the entire time.
My dear students, please listen carefully to this next point, because it is a vital A-level exam tip. The frequency of SHM is entirely independent of the amplitude. Examiners love to use this as a trap in your past papers. Whether you pull a pendulum back 2 centimeters or 4 centimeters, as long as that starting angle is small, it will complete its entire swing in the exact same amount of time. It literally just travels faster to cover the longer distance. Please do not forget this one.
Let's quickly summarize Section 2. First, SHM maps perfectly to a circular projection. Second, total energy is always conserved, equating to half Ka squared. And third, as we just highlighted, frequency is completely independent of amplitude.
Section 3. Springs and fluid oscillations. Let's see how this works in the real world.
So, let's apply our SHM theory to some slightly more complex engineering systems, starting with springs. When we attach a mass to a vertical spring, gravity naturally stretches it down and shifts the resting equilibrium point downward. But what's really interesting here is that once you pull it down even further and let it go, the dynamic restoring force during the actual bouncing oscillation remains purely F equals minus Kx. It completely obeys Hooke's law. Gravity just set a new starting center point. It doesn't change the mathematical nature of the bounce itself.
Okay, here is another essential past paper tip, specifically for your practicals. When you conduct this exact spring experiment in the lab and you plot t squared against the mass m, you'd logically expect a straight line passing right through the origin. But it misses. Why? Well, because the physical spring itself has mass. In reality, theory tells us the effective mass added to the system is about 1/3 of the spring's actual mass. You must account for this little intercept on your exam graph.
Now, let's switch gears and look at liquids. Consider a U-shaped tube filled with some liquid. If you gently blow down on one side, depressing the liquid by a distance x, the liquid on the other side naturally has to rise by x, right? This means the total excess liquid height pushing back down is 2x. This creates an unbalanced restoring force that makes the whole fluid column start to oscillate back and forth.
Let's slowly walk through this derivation, as it's an absolute favorite for examiners. Step 1. The excess pressure is the excess height, which is 2x times density rho times g. Step 2. We know force equals pressure times area, so the restoring force F is minus 2x rho GA. Step 3. We apply Newton's F equals ma. The total mass of the moving liquid is volume times density, which gives us 2ha rho. So plugging that in, minus 2x rho GA equals 2ha rho times a. Look at how beautifully the cross-sectional area A and the density rho just cancel right out on both sides. Step 4. We're left with A equals minus g over h times x. This proves beyond a doubt it is SHM and gives us a final period t equals 2 pi times the square root of h over g.
Take a quick moment to capture this Section 3 study guide. For vertical springs, equilibrium shifts but the restoring force is still minus Kx. The effective spring mass in a real lab is 1/3 its actual mass. And for the U-tube, the final period is completely independent of both the tube's cross-sectional area and the liquid's density.
All right, on to our final section, number 4, damping and resonance.
Up until now, we've talked about perfect theory, where an oscillation just continues on forever. But, well, reality sets in. We live in a physical world absolutely filled with friction. Resistive forces like air resistance or internal friction constantly drain energy away from an oscillating system. This causes the amplitude to gradually decrease to zero. We call this a damping harmonic oscillator. A really great everyday example is the shock absorber in your car. It critically damps the suspension by forcing thick, viscous oil through very small transfer tubes. This intentionally drains the motion energy to resist vibrations, because nobody wants their car bounding chaotically down the road.
But what happens if we force an object to vibrate using an outside force? If that external driving frequency exactly matches the natural frequency of the object, something highly dramatic happens. We call it resonance. The object will suddenly oscillate with a massive maximum amplitude. And honestly, this can be truly destructive. Back in 1850, a group of marching soldiers actually broke a suspension bridge just by accidentally stepping in time with its natural frequency. And it was strong winds that caused the catastrophic, twisting collapse of the famous Tacoma Narrows Bridge. It's the exact same principle behind acoustic shatter, where a singer forces a glass to vibrate until it literally explodes.
Here is our final study guide for Section 4. Free, undamped oscillations theoretically maintain a constant amplitude forever. Damping drains that energy and amplitude via resistive friction. And resonance is the special state where frequencies exactly align to produce a maximum and sometimes very destructive amplitude.
To wrap up today's lesson, I want to leave you with a bit of a critical thinking challenge. If a car's shock absorbers leak and lose all their thick, viscous oil, what type of damping will occur? And why is this physically dangerous for the passengers? I want you to really think about how the system changes from being critically damped to underdamped, and what that ultimately means for the amplitude of the car's bouncing. I really hope you found this explainer clear and helpful for your exam preparation. Thank you so much for learning with me today, and we will meet with another episode of your science subject. Goodbye.